Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Rapp. Welcome to our panel today. We are calling it The Role Plays the Thing because we're going to be talking about role-playing, as in tabletop role-playing. Most specifically, probably D&D is probably the one we're going to talk about the most, but there are any things welcome. But we wanted to create a panel that touched on and spoke to the intersection between role-playing and acting/theater, especially in this day and age when we're in COVID times and there is almost no theater anywhere. And there's lots of role playing, and there's lots of role playing that's being broadcast and performed for people. So it seemed like an interesting conversation. Plus, there's some really talented actors who are doing a lot of great work in the role play space who don't get to do theater these days. So that's the spirit of it. So we asked some really cool, fun people to join us, and they all said yes. So I'm very happy about that. So first, I'm going to go around. It's alphabetical by last name, so there's no other thing to it than that if you're thinking of reasons. First, I'd like to introduce Blue Delbario, who is a non-binary actor currently seen on Star Trek Discovery. What's that? In the role of Adira Tal. They've been acting in theater and films their whole life, which is about, am I allowed to say your age?
7?
No, 23, okay. Right?
Yes.
23, right? Yeah, 23 years. And they're a graduate from the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, Lambda. Blue Delbario, hello.
Hello.
Next we have Omega Jones, who is most known around these parts as the Critical Bard, and he's an actor and full-time streamer on Twitch. He has starred in regional productions of Kinky Boots and Ragtime. And I was wondering, in Kinky Boots, were you the famous Billy Porter role, I assume?
I was his father.
Oh, his father! Oh, okay. All right. But I heard you were Cole House Walker, is that true?
That is also very true, yeah.
And in his gaming life, he's been pioneering a series of talks regarding the realities of racism within the tabletop and gaming community. So Omega Jones, welcome.
Hi.
Next, we have somebody that I've known for I don't even know how many years in the New York theater circles. His name is Josh Lehmann, and he's a Broadway veteran, and he's a gaming aficionado. And you may have seen him in The Prom on Broadway or Finding Neverland on Broadway. Or you didn't mention Hair on Broadway. Weren't you in Hair on Broadway also?
Yeah, I was. Isn't that funny?
That's where I first saw you. And off Broadway in A New Brain, or recently Emoji Land. And he's also, and I didn't know this until I read your bio, by the way, that he's also a librettist, composer, and lyricist, and is co-writing a new musical with Annalee Ashford. What?
Get into it.
All right, I will. Josh Lehmann, hello, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
And then we have Serena Marie, who has a background in improv comedy, performing with The Annoyance, Second City, and IO, also known as Improv Olympic in Chicago. And she was a longtime member of the official D&D Twitch streaming show Rivals of Waterdeep, which I've been watching recently. And she's currently the marketing and community manager for Critical Role, which people in this watching this probably know, but is the sort of preeminent actual play. It's called Actual Play role-playing D&D show on Twitch and YouTube and everywhere. Serena, welcome.
Hi. Oh gosh, I'm so excited.
And then last but certainly not least, we have Andy Mientus, who I've also known for, I don't even know how, like many years. He's a Broadway pro who you may have seen as Hanschel in Deaf West's beautiful production of Spring Awakening, or on TV as composer Kyle Bishop in the NBC musical TV show Smash, or as the Pied Piper on the CW hit series The Flash, who also has, that show also has one of my dear old friends, Jesse Martin. So there's all other connections there. He's also a book writer and lyricist, which I didn't even know that was happening too, as well as a young adult fiction novelist. He's been writing young adult fiction series called The Backstagers. So those are his books. So Andy, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. Hi, everybody. Hi.
So thank you for saying yes. Melissa Anelli, who's my dear friend for many years and is with me the founder of BroadwayCon. We've been chatting a lot about, what are we doing with ourselves as theater lovers, theater artists? How do we find things to sustain us through this time of deprivation? And it seemed very clear to us that D&D/tabletop role-playing has been that oasis for so many people. And I think all of you can speak to that. So I do want to ask you if you can share with me if that's true for you. And what I'm going to do, because this is a tabletop role-playing panel, I have a 10-sided die, and I've assigned numbers to you. So I'm going to roll the die, and I'm going to tell you who's going to answer the question first, okay? So first up, I know that they're going to be thrilled to know that they're first. Blue Delbario, what do you have to say about yourself in that regard? Because I know that you're very excited that you're first.
I just want to know what number I was.
It's very simple. It's in alphabetical order. You're a 1 or a 2, and Omega's 3 or 4, just by last name. It's nothing more than that. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm a part of 2 campaigns right now, and one plays on Sunday with Anthony, and the other is on Saturday with my friends. And those, it fully gets me through the week. It's not like they're those times, those short sessions are something that I now feel so connected to and so peaceful in that I can just fully relax in them. Even when it gets stressful within the game, it's so therapeutic to have that, to have the structure, to have the artistry, to have the story, to laugh with people. To have that right now is fully keeping me afloat. And creating a story that you continuously fall in love with and characters that you continuously fall in love with is also so important when it's coming from your brain. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Thank you. Do you find that it's different, that kind of Zoom hang than other Zoom hangs? Because I know that so many people have talked about Zoom fatigue in the year, but I find that I don't have Zoom fatigue when I'm playing.
No, I feel the same way. It feels like a safe space, even with, new people that I may have not actually met in person, but I've only met virtually. It feels like such a safe space that, if it's mid-game and I need to lie down and take a nap, which I've done, I can do that. It feels really safe and comforting. Yeah.
If you're not playing in a tabletop RPG game that lets you take a nap during the game, that's not a safe space. Take a nap. Thank you, Blue. Next up, we have Andy Mientus.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I won something. I have been playing D&D now for I want to say like 3 years. I did not know the game before, but I've always been a video gamer and an RPG gamer. That's my chosen genre. So I feel like I took pretty naturally to it. But a few years back, I did a production of Tommy, directed by Sam Buntrock, the great director Sam Buntrock, who's a huge nerd and a big D&D person. And so he, after the show ended, got a few of us together and we started playing. So I play still to this day weekly with these people, and they're all theater people. So, in situations where we could roll to find out what happens, we end up just like improvising whole scenes and sort of dodgy accents. And it's a great joy to me during this time. Like you, I feel like it's one of the only Zoom things that I can kind of tolerate anymore. Not just tolerate, but actively enjoy. I think like the structure, the surprise, the like humor, instead of just sort of like sitting around with your sad little cocktail waiting for your turn to talk about anything other than what's happening out in the world. I think it's really, it's kind of the best use of Zoom, I would say. So if you haven't tried it, it scales so well to Zoom. The game, I was amazed by that. Yeah. And the way it links up with Discord and other things, it's really nice.
Yeah, thank you. We have Serena Marie. Hello, you are 8.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I've been playing D&D for around like 5 years. And it's one of those things now in this current time that is a big escape, right? Like you can be anyone you want to be, you can do anything you want to do, and you are saving the world or saving people. And in a time when we don't really have a ton of agency, I think, with everything happening, having that agency in game, I think, is like so impactful and important. And I don't have a home game currently, but I do, like, I know. But I've been doing a lot of like one shots, and those have been just like such a light, I think. And being silly with people for, a few hours. I don't know. Yeah, big fan.
Clear. Okay, so now I'm going to do 0 through 5, or 1 through 5 will be Omega, and 6 through 10 will be Josh, because I've already used more numbers. Omega.
Uh, yeah. D&D has definitely helped me, not just as an actor, but as a person. It's been a way, not just an escape. It's been a place where I can feel comfortable and just feel like I'm still doing. Because in our line of work, the minute you feel like you're doing nothing, you've officially like lost. We like it's the idea of we always got to go to the next audition or be looking at the next monologue and feeling like we need to always be working. And so when this Pandoche started, we're all like, welp. We're kind of stuck doing nothing. And D&D has been a way to kind of invigorate that inner artist that I thought potentially could have been lost during this pandemic. Yeah, I've been playing for about 4.5 years now, personally. And thankfully I do have a home game. I'm sorry, Serena. But it's still been a blessing to every other day or whenever pick up some dice and roll and play these characters that I have not just created but built so much into, so I can I feel like I'm doing what I'm doing on stage. It's been very, very invigorating, and I'm glad I have it, because if I didn't have it, I do not know what I'd be doing right now at all.
Same energy. Josh, Lehmann, would you like to wrap up this little segment since you're the last and I don't need to roll?
Would I ever? I haven't been playing as long as all of you. For me, it mostly started with the pandemic, and it became not an obsession, but such a like the thing that I would look forward to. Not only is it a great outlet for anyone, artistic or not, but just to be with my community in some way. Like, I live alone. My cats are wonderful, but they don't talk yet. We're working on it. So to be able to connect with my people, and I've fallen in love with my character that I've created. He's everything that I want to be, in a way. And so it's so fun to get to you know, act out on those impulses and have fun in that world. And my characters even adopted a daughter. So yeah, now I'm a dad. You're welcome.
Is that something is that something that's informing maybe a life choice for you in any respect? Is it kind of,
Well, it has reassured me that yes, I am needy and need something to love. So that is what that proved to me. But I would be a great dad, but no, that's not my journey.
Understandable, yes. So now I'm going to stop doing the just pick one. So if you ever, please feel free to interject. I just want to have at least one round of that. I wanted to share something from me that was surprising about getting back in. So I started D&D when I was a little kid with my nerdy friends in junior high in the early 80s. So that was the early days of D&D. If you go online, you look at the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons pictures of the books, those are the books I had. But we were really disorganized, so we almost never played. But I rolled a lot of characters, and we would make dungeons, but we just never really did the thing fully. So it's only in the last year that I've gotten to really play. And I thought, okay, I love games. I'm going to really enjoy this game. But what surprised me was what a couple of you have already spoken to, is how much the role play aspect of it has been fulfilling something in me that I didn't anticipate, partly because I'm an actor. That's something I do for a living. I thought that why would I want to do that in my free time in that way? But it's actually turned out to be one of the most fulfilling things and one of the most exciting things. And some of you have already touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to hear a little more about your experiences with that and the way that it might have been, how you go about putting yourselves in your characters or not, or vice versa, all that kind of stuff.
I'd like to say, I think that for me, the big difference between acting, improvising in D&D and, trying to make a living doing it, the only outlet that I've had for that during this time has been making audition tapes, where you are trying to get a job, you're trying to do a good job and look a certain way and impress some group of people and get them to say yes. Where in D&D is truly playing with my friends. We're putting on a play just for us in our house, that our own houses. But it feels closest to the thing that we all did in the backyard when we were little kids. And that to me is so pure. I feel like I could like never act for money ever again, but I still can like do that. And it's really like reconnecting me with something that I liked a long time ago.
That's great. Blue, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I don't know why I raised my hand, but yes, I was gonna say there. You mentioned something about like how much you put yourself into your character, and something that the reason I said therapeutic earlier, and especially therapeutic for this year, is that regardless of what your intentions are when you first make your character, it somehow subconsciously always ends up healing you. I've seen with everyone. Because there's a lot that we're not saying to ourselves and to people around us right now. There's a lot of stuff in our subconscious that's just like buried and squished. And I think surprisingly, I've seen most of it come out for myself and for my friends in our sessions, which is such a beautiful thing. And it always surprises everyone, like the person included or myself included. Seems to just pop up, and it's beautiful how it always connects that way, whether we want it to or not.
Would you have anticipated that? Because I would not have anticipated it, and it's been a wonderful surprise.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I think we have so much, especially since this is our job, we have so much control over what we do, and we do it so often that it feels like I have it handled, I have it organized in my brain. So when it happens, it is like, what's happening? That's just very strange. To have something that you feel like you're so you're very good at and used to and have a structure for kind of fall apart in a really good way.
Yeah, like the lack of prescribed structure.
Yeah,
it's the free fall aspect of it that's part of it. Yes, the danger. Yeah. That touches on something that I kind of wanted to ask you, Serena and Omega in particular, having done performance gaming. If you feel, and you've also played, I assume, home games. So we've been talking about how safe, how much it's about safety and you can play with your friends and it's not for performance, but you have done it in a performance mode. Do you feel a difference in that mode or not? Or does it all sort of, the muscle becomes the same kind of muscle?
I think that in like the performance space, there is that self-awareness where you know that there's an audience, that they're watching. So when there's like things like dead air, like that would be fine in like a home game. But when it's happening and you can feel it, you're like, pick it up, so like that feeling is there. But I think that it's probably closer to an improv show where you don't know what's going to happen next. You're hoping that your dice are kind to you. And you are thinking as quickly as you can in character through that lens. And I think for me, that performance aspect is so important, because once you like are holding on to your character, what your next decision is. In a home game, you can kind of like be more strategic and figure out how you want to take down the baddie. So yeah, I think that that's a little bit of the difference, but like the same like spirit of like that free fall that Blue was talking about is definitely there. And the difference is you're free falling in front of people.
Yeah, exactly that. I think sometimes people also think that, there's such a big difference between playing with friends and playing or in front of an audience, whether it's virtual or in person. And while yes, fundamentally, yes, there is a difference. It's like friends and this core versus a big group of people, it's still the same game, and you still treat it as safely as you would in a home game. There are many different systems out there, like there's a TTRPG safety toolkit that some people have created in the TTRPG community to make sure that, even in front of a camera, even in front of a people, you still are playing as safely as possible. But there's something invigorating to do what you love to do already, that you do off of camera, rather than do it and allow a world to see what you do and how you do, and they can even see the cogs like whirling in your brain as your character decides on something that you don't realize you're going to say, but you end up saying it in front of everybody. And the best part is now it's out there. So you got to kind of keep going with that. So yeah, definitely akin to improv, but it's so much fun still. Like some people would be a little like put off playing such a intimate game in front of an audience, but it's still just as fun. I tell people all the time, it's just like you at home watching, TV. The audience isn't influencing the game by any means necessary, but you're still performing and they're still getting something out of it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would be curious. Like a couple sessions ago in our disco game, we had this really big weird fight that was scary. People, like 3 people went down at different points. It was really touch and go. And my character kind of started it. I did something that started it. Didn't necessarily mean to start it, but it started. And then and the DM was even like, "What the hell?" And it was rough. And the follow-up session was all about like kind of unpacking that, and it got really intense between our characters. And knowing us, I think that if we had had an audience, we still would have been able to go there. But it's just an interesting notion, because I think part of what allowed us to go there was the fact that we are really close friends. We love each other, we trust each other, and it was just for ourselves. So I wonder if that would have maybe impacted some of the sort of purity of it.
I think a little bit, sure, because you're broadcasting your trials and tribulations, if you will. You're broadcasting the intensity that you went through, and then the unpacking of that still being live to an audience or pre-recorded, however you do it. It's still being seen. But at the end of the day, I don't know with Serena, I don't know with anybody else in the TTRPG community. I'm not going to speak for them, but I know for me, especially in my games, I mean, we talk about it beforehand. We have our session zeros. We say, hey, this is what the audience might see one day. This is what they might get one day. Are you comfortable with that? Are you okay with going to that point? And that doesn't have to be something super intense, but are you okay with being vulnerable in front of an audience, playing this game that's so close because it's your character, and with that, it's an extension of you. Are you okay with doing that? And some people are, some people aren't. That's up to the table. But I kind of find going through those moments and allowing the audience to also see those moments, whether it's a fix to the problem, whether the problem escalates, or whatever the outcome is, it's almost interesting to see how the audience reacts. Like sometimes I'll like go back and watch like the live chat and see what's happening, because so many people get different things out of playing D&D, whether it's they love the action, they love the drama, they love the feelings that come out of it. It's still as pure as it is. There just has to be a screen now.
Sure.
And it is up to you as a party and a DM or whatever to decide how much of that they see, how much of that they don't see.
Well, I think it's fun to say, I don't know if at the time that we're making this panel, we haven't yet officially publicly announced that we are also going to be doing a one-shot with and among ourselves. And it's going to be my first time officially DMing. I've done like a little bit of practice, but this has been my first time doing a thing. So thank you for giving me the chance to do that. So in a way, I'm kind of asking these questions, like wondering for myself what it's going to be like. But aside from Omega and Serena, has any of you yet done any kind of public gaming at all? It's all just been with your friends at this point?
Go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to say I'm terrified, actually. I'm going to be totally honest. I'm very nervous, but I'm excited. I mean, in the way that I'm nervous for almost everything I do. But I'm super nervous. I'm interested to see how it changes how bold I am with my dodgy accent, or all the things.
Oh yeah, dodgy accent for the win. Come on, dodgy accent. I like dodgy accents. Hello, I'm going to be doing dodgy accents. Are you kidding me?
I can't wait.
I never do dodgy accents. What are you talking about? Yeah, no, I'm nervous too, Andy. You're not alone. So I'm giving you a virtual hug. What I love the. No matter, yes, I'm nervous that we're doing this for people, but at the same time, it's like doing live theater in a way. I come from the improv world. I'm lucky that my home team, we all used to be on an improv team together. So, maybe my team is a little bit more wild than others, I guess, perhaps. But it's so refreshing to be able to go into that world and to explore and to do what you want. And I've had characters, my characters had like altercations with other characters, or like you said, Anthony, where, you know, Benji just opened up his stupid mouth, and next thing you know, it's rolled initiative.
Yes.
And, you know, it's like, sorry,
Yes.
all right, let's go.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, at the end of that session, I like had to turn the main like conflict was between Mary Wiseman's character and my character, and I love Mary with my heart. Like we get along great, but like at the end, it was so intense at moments. But I would say, "I love you, Mary." She's like, "Yes, of course." But it was I heard somebody refer to it as bleed, which is kind of a gross word, but it's a word that makes sense. The bleed of your character and yourself, because it is so raw. You're making it up. You're not writing a script. You're not, you know, even when we've improv'd in rehearsal situations in a play or a film we're doing, or in an improv game or something like a you know, Second City game, there are parameters to some degree, and it's not really the same parameters in this game. It's totally, truly anything can happen at any moment. So that was really dangerous in a way as a performing feeling that is not like the same kind of risk or danger that you even have when you're improvising a scene in a play, I found. So it was like, it was thrilling, and also really, it was completely original experience of being, all my years of being an actor, I've never quite experienced anything quite like that feeling.
Like that's the biggest difference between a role that you play on stage and D&D. Most likely you didn't create the role that you're playing on stage. So you are putting yourself into the shoes of someone else. So it's not really you. And as Blue said, even if that character that you created in D&D is different, there's still a small part of you that's in that character, especially because you put the work, the time, and the effort into creating that character. You know what they're about. So when you get into that moment, you start to feel it even more.
Yep.
And we say it's okay to have that emotional bleed as long as you talk about it afterwards, as long as you cool down, figuratively, cool down, chat about it, see how you feel, just make sure you kind of bring yourself out of that and back into your own self. But yeah, bleed is almost natural when it comes to D&D, especially when you get to those intimate moments.
And I would think that people who are, you know, thinking about playing or freaked out, that might be a little freaky for people who've never done it before, who aren't actors, but I encourage people to sort of lean into the beautiful mystery of it. And you can actually discover things about yourself that you might not have known, and live into realities of within your own being that you didn't even know were real to you.
Yeah, and I think one thing that D&D does beautifully for folks that might find it a little scary to like dive all the way into an improv is that there is the option of just rolling for things, right? Like if you decide that you want to walk up to that guard and persuade him to like let your crew through, right? Like if you're like me and my theater friends, you want to put on your dodgy accent and like do a whole bit and say what your character would say. But if you're not that person that feels comfortable doing that, you can say like, I would like to try to persuade him, and the GM is going to tell you what to roll, and the numbers will say whether or not it worked. And then like everyone, and so it really, you can kind of do as much or as little as you're comfortable with. And if it's on the day, like some days I'm feeling really fast and loose, some days I'm like not there, and it will meet you halfway in a way that I think is really helpful.
That's lovely. There's a bunch of questions. We put it to the people on the interwebs to ask us questions, and people responded with questions. So I wanted, in the time that we have left, I wanted to see what the people on the interwebs had to ask us. So first up, Claire Willett. That's these are handles. Twitter handle Claire Willett. Would love to hear your thoughts about how RPGs can function for aspiring or emerging writers, especially kids and teens, as a kind of primer for how to think about creating story structure. I would say, especially to those of you who have actually are in the process of writing projects and or published already. So Andy or Josh, if you want to start with this?
Andy, go for it. I've heard all about your new book, so.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. So I write this series called The Backstagers. I'm just plugging it again, which is about, as you can see, an ensemble. It's really, it's like an RPG where it's a party and they all have their own strengths and personalities and weaknesses and all the things. And so I find that playing D&D and only being in charge of like my one character, but seeing the way everyone else is like slotting in the way that the party naturally works together in like combat or puzzle situations, but also just in the chatty like story moments, who is saying what roles are they filling socially, it really teaches me something about how to write ensemble well, how to like weight, you know, everyone's role equally, how to hold up. You know, we've all seen in D&D those just like serendipitous moments of like somebody setting something up or having some ability that then is a surprise thing that saves the day in, you know, game 4 or whatever. How to thread the needle that way in terms of story. Yeah, how to write ensemble, just like watching what happens naturally in a D&D game where the dice is part of it, the individual creative minds of all the people you're playing with is part of it, but seeing how all those elements create organic ensemble, and then like, how do I replicate that when I'm alone in my room trying to write that?
That makes very much sense. Ald Shane Gamer on Twitter, Ald as in Auld Lang Syne. That's the it's not O-L-D, A-U-L-D. What are your favorite ways to make sure everyone is included and having fun at the table? The introvert, the show stealer, the murder jerk, and the gamut of other gamer personalities. That's an interesting thing. Has any of you DM'd officially? Yeah, have you found that these dynamics are something that come up of, you know, the different ways that people express themselves or trying to make sure that everybody gets kind of their moment? Or
I think so. I mean, I think that people fall into like the play style that they're more comfortable in, or what they're looking for in the game. So maybe someone who is more extroverted might find their fun being a bardic character who wants to like chat and talk to and befriend every NPC. And in that game, you might have a more like reserved person who is trying to figure out when to get in there, you know? And I think as a DM, again, very much like improv, you have to like notice like how often people have talked and how often they've had a thing. And if you notice someone hanging back a little, it's maybe time to give them a spotlight story or figure out something that their character cares about and have that drive the next thing so that everything feels balanced. Because they some people won't say anything, you know, and that like breaks my heart, where I'm like, I just want you to have fun and play. So I, as a DM, I always make sure to temper up and temper down where I can.
Yes.
And, I ran a game for my work one time, and it was like my past job, it was like at a marketing agency. And so it was like this like operating director and like account supervisors, like people from all over the company playing this game. And so you had people who have like really high power dynamic, right? And they're like, I'm going to win D&D, you know? And having to say like, no, there's consequence, please roll, you know, please roll. So yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of, you mentioned something about the dice, Andy, and then you just mentioned something about the dice. I watched a panel that Brendan Lee Mulligan, who's a wonderful DM, he talked about the dice as a character, and that it is that the character comes in and they say, this is what this thing is right now, deal with it, kind of thing. And so anybody who's wondering how it all plays, like it's still part of the story. It's not simply a math rock. Yes, it's a math rock, but it also it creates a parameter, and then that means that you get to respond to it in kind of just the way you would to any scene partner who told you X, Y, or Z.
I love that you called it a math rock.
Oh yeah,
we can move on,
rock.
but
shiny click like mac rocks. Yep.
I love that.
Yeah. I wanted to piggyback on what Serena said because quick shout out to my home DM Kyle, who DMs for over 20 people. My home game has 20 people in it. We don't all play at the same time. The Planisphere, what's up? But I watch him and see how he has navigated this entire story. And it's so cool. But just like Serena said, two things. Just like Serena said, when the DM does have that ability to make sure that they are watching and seeing who's speaking more, who's not speaking, who is more impactful in this moment. Like if you're going to a forest, the druidy nature person, this could be their time to kind of speak up. Or if you're talking to a guard or whatever, you need somebody with some more charisma to kind of go over into that direction. That's a time where that DM can nudge you or try to hope that, you know, that person will kind of speak up or feel more in that moment. But also, I, as a DM, like to also stress to my players that as a player, it's also okay for you to open up that avenue to another player. If you know that you're talking a lot, Like I know I play lots of bards. Also don't play a lot of bards, but I sometimes like to make sure, like what I know, that the players around me are just as whether talkative or active as I can be. So if I can pass the conversation to someone else or even invite them into that conversation, I will. So I definitely say, as a player, you have the ability to make sure that the entire party, the entire group feels welcome and feels safe. It's not just all on the DM's shoulders.
Yeah, and I think it's so much like improv. We've all been to improv shows where there's like the person who's just stomping on everybody else all the time, you know. And then there's the people who are like, I saw Will Ferrell years and years and years and years and years ago while he was just starting out. And I was like, that guy is brilliant, partly because he let space happen. And then he would sort of, when he came in, it was like the exact right time, the exact right thing. But he was like listening, he was in the moment kind of thing. So I think it's a very applicable skill or tool for playing this game.
Yeah, it's great for a community because there should be different types of players at the table. That's, for me, that's what makes it so fun. That's, you know, it's like it's your community. It is a real community.
And I saw you like nod your head really vigorously when bards were mentioned, Josh. So.
Oh, well, I mean, hello.
So this folds very nicely into this next question. Samantha Spiz asked, hi everyone, what type of character do you each enjoy playing, and do you have a favorite game encounter? So, I mean, I guess Bard for you is the only character you've played so far, Josh, since you're new to the game?
Right now, I'm a Bard. I'm looking for a new campaign to join. It's so depressing. I'm like, hey, does anybody have a campaign? It's, you know, it's really, I'm special that way. But yeah, I love it because I get to sing and act a fool, but at the same time, I've really taken the fighting aspect very seriously. I think it's easy to be intimidated by the game because if you don't know how to play, and then you go to D&D Beyond or whatever, and you're looking, there's 8,000 things you can be.
Yes.
So for anybody out there that's wanting to get into it, baby steps. You don't have to know everything about every character. Find something that suits you, go from that, and then you will learn about the world and about all the other magical, wonderful creatures you can be.
Josh, your cat.
What?
Your cat is giving us a shadow play in the lampshade.
In the lamp,
Is
yeah.
inside the lamp.
Yes, we have a bard in our party in the disco game, and played by Ian Alexander, and he befriended a manticore. So yes, he was the true bard in that moment. How about well, I know Blue's answer what kind of character they like to play. So, but you can tell the world.
Yeah, we've had many debates that I've started and have not let you respond to, but I love playing wizards. I think they're the best. It's the magical aspect for me. It's having, you know, control over that kind of magic in this imaginary world is like unmatched in my brain. I love playing bookish people. I love playing a character who can have the kind of anxiety or like similar anxiety disorder to the one that I have, and then be able to, you know, if they're a little bit soft-spoken or introverted, turn around and completely like obliterate a group of people with magic. I think it's just the best feeling in the world, and something that I don't get to feel a lot in real life. Very much a people pleaser, and so yeah, I love to play that kind of dynamic with a wizard. I think they're awesome.
Cool. How about you, Serena?
I really like playing little sneaky characters. Like rogues are my favorite, and I think the reason why I like them is that like the stereotype is that they're bad, right? But like I like playing like the sunniest, like happiest rogue that like steals things for people. And just like playing with like, when I choose a race, playing like the opposite dichotomy of it a little bit is fun. But as far as just characters in general, I like to play. It kind of does vary, but I, having done theater and done like commercial stuff, getting typecast as a certain thing for so long, like bank teller, you know. I like playing like silly, zany, wacky whenever I can, because yeah.
Otherwise, as opposed to like buttoned up and just
Buttoned up and very professional, and yeah.
Yeah. And Andy,
yeah. In D&D, as in like the RPGs, the video games I like to play, I get most jazzed about the really like kind of elaborate supporty characters. When I'm talking about class, like the abilities that aren't necessarily like blow a bunch of stuff up, or but like the buffs and debuffs, the like out of combat spells to like solve problems. I love like the minutia of that, the numbers going up and down, and the tricky problem solving out of combat I find really exciting. So I tend to gravitate to like the magical classes that have all those weirdo spells, or bards that have all the buffs and debuffs, things like that.
And so I wonder if anybody's done like a study on the characters that people gravitate to in RPGs and what that means about themselves. If anybody's done that.
Let's start.
You should write that book.
That's honestly one of the most interesting parts of it for me. That watching that happen and watching it happen to like new players, seeing what they pick and then seeing what they pick surprise them because of that. I love it. It's so interesting.
I never am drawn to playing a fighter, not ever. Like it's so uninteresting to me. But maybe if I played a fighter that had an interesting thing, I don't know. Anyway, Megan, we know we've talked about bards. We only have a couple more minutes, so want to make sure you got to answer this too. Aside from bards, you know.
Fun fact: my favorite class isn't the bard. I just happen to be a bard because it's what I do. My favorite class isn't the bard. My favorite class is actually a cleric, not because they heal. I think clerics are one of the most versatile classes in D&D. My first ever character, I can't say his name because the first part of his name isn't pleasant. And it's because I wanted to name his character this word. Anywho, I'll type it in chat. But he was a Tempest cleric of Talos. Was because he died, rip. But he called himself the left hand of Talos because he would gladly fight somebody for Talos. And he was the type of person where if you didn't pull your weight, we were in a fight one day and this person was like not really doing anything. And then they went down and my DM was like, "You have spare the dying, right?" And I was like, "I do." Shatter at 5th level. They can survive one more death save. Because that's the type of person he is. He won't do anything for you if you don't pull your own weight. So I just love how versatile, how much flexible they can be. They can be super healing, or they can do the most damage in a group, or they can support. It all depends on how you want to play that cleric. Religion isn't about healing, it's about their own faith. So I like how they can pull that and be whatever character they want to be. Love clerics.
That's cool. So for people who are watching this and they're going to watch our little one shot, you want to say a little bit, just a quick thing about what you will be playing, just so people can anticipate and tune in. So I'm going to go in this order, the same order I've gone in before. Blue, what are you playing?
I'm gonna play a Divination Wizard, who, if you could imagine like a tiny, tiny old woman, covered in multiple layers of clothing, and strange hats, and speaks in riddles. Kind of your worst nightmare.
Very good. We look forward to meeting her. Yes, Omega, what are you going to be playing for us tomorrow?
I'll be playing Pinkerton Valhern. You can call him Pinky. And he is covered in rats, and he has a best friend who is a rat with their brain exposed, named Brain.
Very good. Josh, who will we be meeting?
You're going to be meeting Benji the Great. He comes from a long line of bards, but his family was killed by the evil Lord Strahd. So he has some damage, but he also has a lot of magic. He's half elven. He's cool. He's tough.
I didn't say I was a ranger too. Sorry.
Oh yes, Swarmkeeper Ranger, right?
Yep, Swarmkeeper. So many rats.
Yes. And Serena?
I will be playing an arcane trickster, which is my favorite type of rogue, so magical rogue. She is a tinkerer, but she's bad at it. So good luck, everyone else. And yeah, she's a adorable, small, little gnome character who is an explosion mess of chaos. So yeah, good times.
They also don't know what I'm running for them, so I know that this is it's kind of serendipity is a thing, and it's just
Oh.
it really is. So you'll see. Anyway, yes, Andy. Last but not least.
Yes, I apologies to Blue. I'm also playing a Divination Wizard because it's one of the only classes that I know how to play. He is a Divination Wizard because he, until the day that he got a very dark prediction that changed the course of his life, he plied his trade as a cartomancer, a tarot card reader, just in the village, reading people's cards. Now his spellbook actually is his deck of cards. Every spell is tied to a card, and he is very squishy. I would have played him that way anyway, and thus a coward. But the roles when I was building the stats, he is actually quite squishy. So he's inclined to run away and hide and sort of shoot things and help his friends from a distance, but all using his tarot cards.
Very, very, very good. I look forward to taking these people on an adventure. Thank everybody so much for listening, for being a part of our virtual BroadwayCon. We are all so desperate to get back into a place where we can be in person together in the theater. Can you imagine what that's going to be like when we're in theaters, either on stage or in the audience? Oh my goodness. So we hold that moment in our hearts, and thank you so much for spending this time with us, and take care and stay safe.